The operating system of the G44 is a simple blowback mechanism, similar to the G42 380 auto pistol. The power of the .22 long rifle is, by far, less than the centerfire calibers chambered by Glock, and a blowback system makes sense, since all other .22 rimfire pistols on the market use a blowback system. The second thing that can be said regarding the G44 is that the dimensions are identical to a Glock G19. Those who have a Glock G19 will become immediately familiar with the pistol the first time they pick one up. What they will not be familiar with is the weight. From the technical data, the loaded weight of the G44 is only 16.4 ounces. That is only a pound of pistol. One of the major differences between the G44 and other Glock pistols, aside from weight, is a slide that is polymer with a reinforced steel rail. The slide incorporates front and rear serrations and standard Glock sights. If you only had the frame of the G44 in your hand, you would swear that you were holding a G19. Everything about the frame, including the trigger, is the same as that found on the G19. But I want to focus a bit on that slide. Is this simply a .22 conversion kit that can be purchased online for about $295? Some, like myself, would say that they would rather have a complete pistol like the G44 rather than having to replace the slide each time that they wanted to shoot .22 ammunition, and are willing to pay an extra $135 for such a pistol. There is some credence to that, I suppose. One thing to consider is that .22 conversion kits are just that, kits that convert from one caliber to the .22 cartridge. The G44 is a complete, integrated package that is designed specifically for the .22 cartridge. Now I have .22 caliber pistols, such as a Ruger Mark IV, Smith & Wesson Victory, and others. So, what compelled me to purchase the G44? One reason was curiosity. I really wanted to see how Glock was going to pull this off, although I would have been more excited over, say, a Glock 9mm carbine. A second reason is that I wanted something to take to the range for practice, something that I was familiar with, since I have been carrying the G48 and G45. Cheap practice with less expensive ammunition is always a plus, if you do it in moderation. I say moderation because one could get hooked on shooting with a lot less recoil and tend to forget to practice with something a lot more powerful, say one that is carried for personal defense. In a way, and getting back to the slide of the G44, and realizing that the G44 is a rimfire and not a centerfire pistol, I was really interested in the striker configuration, the weight of the recoil spring, dry firing, etc. The slide is pleasingly done and removes from and installed on the frame in the typical Glock fashion. The pistol itself is a Gen 5 series, which means that a few upgrades over previous series are incorporated. One such upgrade is the Glock Marksman Barrel, or GMB. Polygonal barrel rifling is 6 grooves with a 1 in 15.98-inch twist. Of course, polygonal rifling is a type of gun barrel rifling where the traditional sharp-edged lands and grooves are replaced by less-edged hills and valleys in a polygonal pattern. There has been quite a bit of controversy regarding polygonal rifling and the effect of leading. Leading is the buildup of lead in the bore that happens in nearly all firearms that fire high-velocity lead bullets. This lead buildup must be cleaned out regularly, or the barrel will gradually become constricted, resulting in a higher than normal discharge pressure, In the extreme case, and especially with larger calibers, increased discharge pressures can result in a catastrophic incident. No mention of bullet types, letter jacketed, is mentioned in the instruction manual provided with the pistol. With that said, I would try to limit my use of ammunition to jacketed types. The rear sight, the usual white outline square notch, is adjustable for windage, an improvement over a fixed rear sight. Sight radius is 6.22 inches. The slide internals look like any other Glock. The integration of steel and polymer is so well done as to be unnoticeable, unless you were looking for specific things, which of course I was. The captured recoil spring and guide should come to no surprise for anyone familiar with Glock pistols. At the rear of the slide, there is a slide plate, as Glock calls it. Glock warns that you do not try to remove or manipulate the slide plate or the polymer part of the slide. Any manipulation would void the warranty. The reason is that it is part of the steel reinforcement structure for the slide. The last point on the slide is the chamber loaded indicator, which is a simple slot at the rear of the chamber that when looked down into will indicate if a cartridge is chambered or not. Personally, I always regard a firearm as loaded if the action is closed. Going back to the frame a bit, I find a lot of similarities with the G44's frame, as with its larger caliber siblings. Since the G44 is a Gen 5 series, the finger grooves are not present, as was on the Gen 3 and Gen 4 versions. The grip texture is definitely Gen 5, with its diamond pattern of texturing. This makes for an exceptionally good gripping surface without being obtrusive to the hand. The bottom of the grip is flared slightly, and the magwell is slightly beveled. The magazine release button can be converted to a right side only, while the slide lock is ambidextrous. My first duty when bringing the G44 home was to attach the large beaver tail backstrap, which is something that I do with all my Glock pistols that can sport the beaver tail grip adapter. Glock 44 pistols feature 4 interchangeable backstraps, 2 with and 2 without a beaver tail, to vary the circumference and the shape of the frame, which helps you in the fitting of the G44 to your specific hand size. All internals are virtually Glock, while the trigger assembly is a standard Glock safe action fair with integral trigger safety lever. The trigger pull weight on my scale is 5.8 pounds, which occurs after a short bit of take-up. Trigger pull is typical Glock, a slight bit of mush until the striker is released. As usual, it only takes about 1/8 inch to cock the pistol. Trigger reset is also typical Glock, brief. Although the G44 is the same, dimension-wise, as the Glock G19, do not think that you can interchange them. They are both 7.28 inches in length and are 5.04 inches in height. The G44 is slightly less width at 1.26 inches. The G19 is 1.34 inches wide. Swapping slides on G44 and G19 frames is a no-go. According to Glock, very few of the internal components are the same between the G44 and G19. Most of the internal firing mechanism is unique to the G44 due to the rimfire caliber. As with most Glock pistols, an accessory slot is available at the front end for mounting the accessories, except for a Slim Jim holder which is not yet available for Glock pistols, or a bayonet. And yes, there are bayonets available for Glock pistols. But what would you be thinking, Tackleberry? John Wick didn't even use one. Most are against dry firing a .22 caliber firearm because of the damage that the firing pin can do to the breech face or to the firing pin itself. There is no mention of dry firing in the instruction manual. Now, it is known that you must pull the trigger to disassemble the Glock pistol. and I felt that the question needed to be asked, so I placed a call to Glock. The response I received was to limit the amount of dry firing to disassembly only. Otherwise, use a snap cap or other device to prevent damage to the pistol. First, the fit of the Glock G44 is awfully familiar in my hand, having shot a few Glock pistols in the past. I am not one to do magazine dumps, as I do not need to add drama to the shooting event, like some others who do video reviews. I do not hear Ludwig van Beethoven's Fifth Symphony in C minor playing in the background, although I might hum a few bars of In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida on a few occasions, if I feel frisky. Playtime is usually spent at 7 yards with occasional excursions to greater distances if I feel spunky. Primarily, I am checking for functioning of the pistol and relative accuracy from 7 to 10 yards. This day was no different. I only had CCI Mini Mag, 22 long rifle, hollow point, 40 grain CPHP at 1260 feet per second, Federal Target Grade Performance, 40 grain lead round nose at 1200 feet per second, and Remington Thunderbolt, 40 grain lead round nose at 1258 feet per second with me. The Federal and the Remington were the first up, as I had hoped to clean any leading out by running the CCI Mini Mag afterward. The first two magazines were loaded with Federal, and the G44 was ready to go. I was really interested in how the 4.02-inch Glock polygonal GMB was going to handle this ammunition. The Federal Target Grade Performance functioned perfectly, as did the Remington Thunderbolt, as did CCI Mini Mag. There were absolutely no FTFs, FTEs, short stroking, or other malady. Point of impact was merely point of aim with a slight 6 o'clock hold at 10 yards. Felt recoil was next to nothing. The Federal Target Grade Performance muzzle blast was near nothing, while the Remington Thunderbolt and CCI Mini Mags made a mini flamethrower out of the Glock G44. And speaking of the magazine has two load assist buttons in the sides of the magazine that are pushed down for inserting fresh rounds. It is best not to run the button all the way to the bottom, but to push down just enough to insert the cartridge. Since rimfire ammunition has a rim, this ensures that the cartridges are properly stacked in the magazine. Push the cartridges all the way to the back of the magazine for best performance results. Just something to think about. A loaded Gen 5 G19 weighs 30.16 ounces. A loaded G44 weighs 15.94 ounces. I am used to a full-size 1911, weighing in at around 45.92 ounces at the end of my arms. The weight of the loaded Glock G44 is just 2 ounces shy of the weight of two 8-round 1911 45 ACP magazines. Think about that a bit. The Glock G44 weighs less than what I would carry for spare ammunition to feed my 1911. Shooting the Glock G44 is just a hoot to shoot, and made for a very pleasurable range experience. The Glock G44 is just a fun critter to shoot. If you carry a Glock G19 and need cheap practice, the G44 can feed .22 ammunition all day without breaking the bank. It does like the hotter ammunition, and mine did well with CCI Mini Mags. I'm sure that CCI Velociter or CCI Stinger would do well in hollow point ammunition on varmints and small game. For plinking, the CCI Mini Mag just may punch your ticket. One question that might be on people's mind regarding the Glock 44 is reliability. We do have a nylon reinforced polymer frame and a hybrid of polymer and steel in the slide. From what I have read, Glock spent close to 3 years testing and developing the G44, which is why models like the G45, G46, G47, and G48 passed it up in reaching the market. The G44 was still in R&D. During that time, they used no less than 141 different rimfire loads in testing, expending over 1.2 million rounds in the process. Federal, which supported the effort, used everything in test guns from 42-grain subsonic to CCI Stingers with no problem. Of course, magazine capacity is not as high as, say, the Taurus TX22 at 16+1 or the Kel-Tec CP33 at 33+1, but neither of those are Glocks, which are in a league of their own. Conversion kits for the Glock G19 are available, and some reliability issues have surfaced using these conversion kits. What you get with the G44 is a proven and tested pistol already chambered in .22 caliber. Given the price difference between some of these kits and a G44, a pistol specifically designed around the .22 long rifle cartridge, the G44 is the better deal, in my opinion. The G44 has completed the spectrum of Glock pistols that I wanted, and maybe I just needed this one as well. Besides, there is always room for another .22 pistol, and just maybe a Glock G22. Well, it is a .22, isn't it? Talk about two ends of the spectrum. By the way, a threaded barrel is already separately offered for those who would like to run a can on their G44. And as a last word, the Glock G44 is made in the US of A. This completes this video review of the Glock G44 compact .22 caliber pistol. I'll be producing other gun and gear reviews, and I hope that you will stop in and view them. In the meantime, stay safe out there.